So, good evening, everyone. Reminder that we are recording, we are posting on YouTube our classes. So if you don't feel comfortable with having your name or your face, please remove yourself from the screens or from the meeting altogether, okay? We are back to the Spirit's book. I'm going to share my screen here. We are on question 931. The item is Relative Happiness and Unhappiness of chapter 1 of book 4 of the Spirit's book. And we have 3 questions to finish this sub-item, Relative Happiness and Unhappiness. So I'm going to ask Paco to read for us, 931.
Okay, sir. I will. Okay, 931. Why is it that there are many more people who suffer rather than prosper in our society? None of you are perfectly happy, and what the world considers prosperity often hides the most agonizing sorrows. Suffering is everywhere. However, to answer the thought that prompted your question, the classes we call suffering are more numerous because Earth is a place of atonement. When human beings make Earth a sanctuary for goodness and good spirits, unhappiness will no longer exist. It will then be a paradise for all its inhabitants.
Okay, so we live in a world of trials and atonements, as you are all aware. And we discussed this several times when we asked why there are more people suffering, there are more people struggling. At our stage of evolution, we are still in need of a challenge to work hard, to move ahead. So if we had, most of us have conditions to live well without making much of an effort, the vast majority would do. So the way we are, and it's a consequence of our own evolutionary process, is that we need to work hard for us to survive. And because we are in a world of trials and atonements, and all of us have a lot of atonements, we are struggling with suffering and with our difficulties, our so-called trials and atonements that makes us, makes the living here on earth challenging. But as we evolve, as we become a world of regeneration, which is a transitional world to a happy world, that means that good prevails over evil. The unhappiness will slowly diminish until in a happy world, it no longer exists in the way we understand it today. There will still be challenges for us to learn, to progress, and some reparations that we have to do to our own evolutionary journey. But it will be, when the spirits say here, it will be a paradise for all its inhabitants. That is when we think of a happy world. And the paradise, of course, is relative to what we know today. It's not a paradise compared to perfect worlds, but these are things that we don't even understand. So we cannot grasp the concept, so we leave it for later. Okay?
All right. I have a question, though.
Sure.
Okay, if this is a dimension of trials and atonement, if I am able to work throughout my trials in this dimension, that means that I will not reincarnate in this dimension because I've worked through my trials. Am I making sense?
Well, there was a question on the lecture by Caldini last Saturday when someone asked if we could jump from a world of trials and atonements to a happy world, and the answer, I don't know if it was that it was, our evolution, we don't jump. It's a slow process evolution, mostly. So is it possible? Yes. Can we become saints in one incarnation? Theoretically,
No.
yes. But practically,
No.
it's really not possible. So the reality, Paco, is that we're still here on Earth because we are evolving according to to the pace that we can, and we are surrounded by our friends and our enemies, our loved ones, and the ones we have to readjust. Yes. So it's unlikely that we are going to change it, and the reincarnation process will most likely, very likely actually, bring us back to Earth again. Okay, Paco?
Yeah, okay. So I'm looking at it in terms of, okay, it's going to take a long time, but since we progress at different pace, okay, am I condemned to live on planet Earth throughout all my reincarnations until the planet itself regenerates and regenerates and regenerates until it becomes a happy world?
No, you can evolve faster than the planet and move to a more evolved planet. Or you can evolve slower than the planet and go back to a less evolved planet.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Because that's what happened to you with Egyptians, isn't it? Like,
yes, the inhabitants from Capella that came incarnated.
Capella, exactly.
Yes, and caused the great evolution. Yes, okay. They will. It's according to On the Way to the Light. All those that incarnated in Egypt from Capella already went back. But there are four different groups that came from Capella in 4 different regions, and those that went to the other regions, some of them are still here with us.
Still with us. Okay.
Yeah.
John, I have a question.
Sure, Solado.
Yeah. Okay. What happens when, let's say, we do go to a evolved world better? What happens to the families?
Oh, that's a good question.
What happened to our families?
Yes.
I mean, will we ever see them again? I don't know. Okay.
And that's a reason that we can, if we can go to a more evolved planet, we may choose not to. Yes. So the progress, you progress according to your own pace, your own effort. But of course, you have your loved ones that you want them around. It doesn't make any sense for you to move forward and leave behind those that you love. So it's very likely that even if you can evolve, move to a different planet, you will still stay here. Remember the book Renunciation, Alcione, the case of Alcione, that chose to incarnate here on Earth to help her loved one, and she didn't need to. And her mentor told her, "Are you sure? You're going to struggle a lot." And she said, "No, I need to help him. I want that." And then you read the whole story in the book, which is a beautiful story, and it's a struggle. But she chose because she couldn't move forward without her loved one.
Yeah.
That's a tough. That's a
Yeah, that's
you know,
tough.
that's a tough decision.
Yeah. Luis, you have a question, right?
Yes, internet is very bad today. So if you guys start not to hear me say something. Regarding the point that you meant that Paco asked about, and you mentioned Caldini's lecture last Saturday, I didn't want to interfere during the lecture, but as far as I understand, João, a few of us, not me or you, maybe Paco, I don't know, we are here from a higher level with a mission. And those few of us that are here from, a much more level of development, I understand that when they disincarnate, they will actually go to a much better place than most of us. Is that correct?
Yes. Those that come here on missions can go back to more evolved places where they are. So because they are at a level that Earth is not. Earth is a level below them. So they will come here on missions and then go back to where they came from. But it's very individual, right? It's said that Bezerra de Menezes, when he went back to the spiritual world, he was told he could move to a more evolved planet if he wanted, and he decided to stay here, and he's still here helping us from the other side. So yes, it's possible, and that's what we discussed. And yes, there are missionaries that come here that haven't incarnated on Earth for a very long time, that come here for a specific mission and then go back to where they were originally. But talking about the vast majority of us, we will continue to be here, and we will be here for some time still.
The general rule, that's what you're saying, that's the general rule.
Yeah. Yes, we normally have to discuss the general rule, not the exceptions, right?
Of course.
We have to point out that exceptions exist, but our idea here, our focus is to discuss the majority.
Exactly.
Okay, next one.
Okay. Why do the wicked in this world so often have power over the good? This is a direct consequence of their weakness of the good. The wicked are captivating and bold, while the good are often timid. Whatever the good are determined to take over, they will prevail. I like that.
Okay. Yes, and please let's not talk about politics on this. But I've been saving a phrase from Dr. Martin Luther King, which applies perfectly to this question. He said, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And that's a very powerful phrase, meaning it's not enough not to do evil, but we have to actively try to do good, meaning we have to work and we have to make our voices heard. It is important because otherwise we will allow the wicked, as they call here, to dominate. And will this prevent the evolution of the planet? No. The planet is evolving, and it has been evolving for the last, since the creation, but it will delay the progress. So if you want the progress to be faster, we need the good to prevail. Divaldo said that we only need 500 advanced spirits to incarnate at the same time and be placed in key positions for the world to change very fast, because the majority of us are followers. And we are not, we go where the wind takes us, in a sense.
Yes.
So that's why we need good examples, and we need active workers of good to take the direction of those that are willing to follow a good example, but don't have the strength to do by themselves. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so remember the phrase from Dr. Martin Luther King. It's very important again. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Don't be silent when you see injustices.
That's great.
Okay, the next is the last one. It's a long one, but let's go, Paco.
Okay, people are often the architects of their own physical suffering. Are they the architects of their moral suffering as well? Even more so, because material suffering is sometimes independent of their will. However, wounded pride, disappointed ambition, the anxieties of greed, envy, jealousy, and all the passions are the torments of the soul. Envy and jealousy. Blessed are those who do not know these two knowing worms. Where envy and jealousy exist, there can be no calm or tranquility. These passions torment anyone who is a slave to them, even in their sleep. The envious and jealous are always agitated. Is such a state desirable? Do you not understand that you create the most terrible tortures with such passions, and that earth then truly becomes a hell for you? Many expressions paint vivid pictures of the effects of different passions. We say, bursting with pride, down on envy, consumed by jealousy, and so on. Expressions that are very true. Sometimes even jealousy has no fixed object. There are individuals who are naturally jealous of anyone who rises. Everything that is out of the ordinary, even when their own interests are in no way concerned, simply because they're not able to achieve a similar success. Everything that seems to be above the common horizon offends them. And if they formed the majority of society, if possible, they would want to bring everyone down to their level. It is jealousy attached to mediocrity. Much of the unhappiness people feel is the result of the undue importance they attach to the things of this world. Vanity, ambition, and greed make up a huge part of their misfortunes. If people place their goals beyond the narrow circle of physical life, raising their thoughts towards an infinite that is their destiny, then the difficulties of human life seem petty and foolish, like a broken toy over which a child weeps inconsolably. Those who find their happiness only in the satisfaction of pride and gross material passions are unhappy when they cannot satisfy them. However, those who ask for non-luxuries are happy under circumstances other people perceive as dire. We're talking about civilized people, because savages do not have the same inclinations to envy and anxiety since they have fewer wants. Their way of looking at things is altogether different. In the civilized state, people analyze unhappiness and are affected by them even more painfully. However, they may also analyze the means of consolation within their grasp. Christianity provides solace by giving them hope of a better future by spiritism that provides the certainty of that future. That's a long one.
Okay.
Now,
Yes.
now, like I said, tell me in plain English.
In English. Yeah, let's go. So this is kind of a summary of this item that we just studied, right? The relative happiness and unhappiness. When we talk about physical suffering and moral suffering, the difference is that physical suffering in this and in an incarnation is part of it. We are going to struggle as our physical body faces problems. So we are going to get old, and with getting old comes all the diseases or all the struggles that is a result of the decaying of our physical body. Now, the moral suffering, that's something that we impose on ourselves, because when someone told me that phrase that I like very much, right? Pain is mandatory, suffering is optional.
Yeah.
Meaning, we are going to have physical pains. There's no way to avoid it because our physical body decays. But our mind, the suffering that we impose on ourselves through our moral aspect, is our own responsibility. And what Kardec here says, and the Spirit says here, is envy and jealousy. You'll find the basis of all our moral struggles on those two words, right? Because we don't find ourselves happy with our situations, and we wish we were in better situations, or we envy others without fully understanding the difficulties that everybody has to go through. Because, one thing is certain here on earth, everyone struggle, everyone has to go through challenges. Of course, there are different levels of challenges, and some people will say, oh well, but if you are suffering with a lot of money, it's easier. Only those that are suffering with a lot of money can say that, right? Those that suffer without money and then become rich and continue suffering, they can say it, because we can only understand what we are going through and understand our situation. We cannot understand others. But the problem is, we don't find happiness in our own lives, and we keep looking to the neighbor, and always the garden, the neighbor's garden is always greener. So who's causing moral pain? Is ourselves, with our wants that are more than we should. We should try to find peace of mind. And that's why we study Spiritism and we discuss all this. Because when you find peace of mind, when you find happiness, and again, for each individual, the level of comfort is different. So we cannot impose a certain level of comfort for everyone, because we have different needs and different levels of involvement. So we have different levels of comfort. But when we find ourselves in a comfortable state mentally, we are able to be better individuals and better serve society. Until we are struggling and worrying about ourselves with what we have, or what we would like to have, or protecting what we have, we are going to suffer one way or another. So the idea here is that Kardec said in one phrase, much of the unhappiness people feel is the result of the undue importance they attach to the things of this world. Once we give less importance to the things of this world, and more importance to our states as eternal beings that are in constant evolution, that have to go through struggles and we see the struggles we go through as a learning opportunity, as an opportunity to evolve, then we will be less unhappy, or maybe still relative happy, as the item talks about relative happiness. There is no perfect happiness, because we will struggle, because it's part of being in a world of trials and atonements, but we can find relative happiness. So just a comment here. There is the word savages again that we said that we are not going to use anymore. We are going to replace with primitive people. So the word savages here in the last paragraph should be replaced by primitive people, right? They do not have the same inclinations to envy and anxiety, since they have fewer ones. They have more basic needs and wants according to their level of evolution. So that's what Kardec is saying here. Okay, this was the last question of this item. So if anyone has any questions about relative happiness and unhappiness, because then we go to a completely different subject. Paco, you're muted. You're muted, Paco. You're talking and we're not hearing.
You hear me?
Now we can. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. And now you're mute again. We lost you.
Okay. You hear me?
Yes.
You hear me? Okay. It says here, much of the unhappiness people feel is a result of the undue importance we attach to the things of this world. So would I be correct to say that a key to kind of happiness would be detachment? Can I say that?
Yes.
Can I say that? Not just, the attachment we do. If we start detaching from that doesn't mean we're not going to be making use of those things, but detachment, not be so attached to those things.
Exactly.
Will I be correct in saying that, Joel?
Yes, it's very important to understand that it doesn't mean that we should get rid of all of our possessions, because if we do that, we become a burden to society. We have to survive. So the idea here is not to get attached to the material things that we have, and be comfortable with what we have, and and accept what we have with resignation, faith, and understanding that this is the best for us at the moment, as long as we are making an effort to progress, both morally, intellectually, and we are in peace with our conscience, we will be relatively happy. And that's what the spirits and Kardec are trying to tell us here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Right,
João.
Next one. Yes, Renato.
So how do you think that for a spirit after disincarnation that is not attached to the material things here will find him or herself happier on the spiritual realm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
because
go ahead.
Yes, continue. Go ahead. No, continue.
Because with all the material things put to bed, what would be our goal? Because we don't practice much moral involvement here, because we are so busy with the material things. We are not used to, we go church twice a week and that's it. So we're gonna have like pretty much 24/7, if you consider time in the spiritual realm, to work on our moral. So just wondering the mechanics of happiness, and what would be our goal in order to be happy in the spiritual realm.
Well, you have to understand that at our level of evolution, if many of us have moved to a different country, we may find happiness in another in the place we are living, but we miss some things of our old place. So there is no, it's an illusion to think that we are going back to the spiritual world and we're not going to miss anything from the material world. We are. It's changes bring this sort of feelings. But the important thing here, what the spirits always try to tell us, is for us not to be excessively attached, to have a healthy relationship with our possessions, so that when we leave them behind, we will maybe miss them a little bit, but in a healthy way again. So, and when we are, because what happened, and if you remember those movies, The Others, and why she stays in the house, that's the only thing she knows. That's the only thing she understands. She's not even aware that she's back in the spiritual world. So the attachment to the house, which is not really an attachment in terms of possession, but it's an attachment in the sense of she doesn't know anything better, makes her suffer. She's suffering throughout the movie, right? And so the understanding of our spiritual nature, the understanding of what we are going to face when we find ourselves on the other side, and the acceptance of the process is what is going to make us feel less longing for what we left behind. You remember that story of Chico's friend, that he said once that he had this friend that was a very evolved spirit, and he went back to the spiritual world before Chico. And one day Chico was walking, and then he passes in front of the house he used to live, and he sees him there sitting on his rocking chairs, and happy there in his rocking chair. And Chico goes to him and asks, "What are you doing here? You don't need to be here. You should be in a much better place than here." And he turns around and said, "Oh, Chico, yes, I know I am, but I do miss my rocking chair. So sometimes I come here and relax a little bit on it, just for old time's sake." So you see, a more evolved spirit, more evolved than Chico, and he still missed his rocking chair, and he went there. So is it a sick attachment? No, it's a healthy attachment. Not healthy in the way, because it would be better if he didn't, but it's part of us. We miss things, and if we have the opportunity of being connected, but the more important connections are to other spirits, to our loved ones. Dani.
I see a little bit of a contradiction here when it's through the material life that we become better or learn more on the moral side, right? So the struggles with the material life, that's actually what helps us to face difficulties, change, learn, basically. So
no, we learn on both sides.
Why, yes, but that's why we come to the physical life. Otherwise, we would just stay in the physical world and learn just over there. But we need to be in the material life to actually put in practice, to learn. I mean, both sides. But so it's complicated, because it's the material life that propels us forward or backwards in a way, because we need this life. Otherwise, we wouldn't incarnate over and over.
Yeah, the material life provides us with the opportunities of finding differences, finding spirits of different levels of evolution. Because when we are in the spiritual world, we are surrounded by spirits that vibrate more or less at the same level. So
Oh,
You know, when you are in Solar, all spirits around you are more evolved, less evolved, but there is not much for you to feel envy or jealous in a damaging way, right? You may admire a spirit that is more evolved than you, and you may want to strive to achieve that level, but when we are here on Earth, is really when we find the differences, and the physical life provides us with opportunities of seeing lives that are completely different of ours in terms of material possessions, and forces us to deal with those emotions that we need to control, our inferior emotions, right? That in the spiritual world is much less, it's much less in front of us, because we are surrounded by spirits that are more or less the same.
But also in the physical life, that's when, because we don't have the memory of living in the physical world like up front here, right? So
in the spiritual
relationships are actually what makes us live here, because it's at least the part we are now in the book. It keeps bringing back like the word luxuries, wealth, or possessions that distracts us too much from growing on the moral side, and that way that's saying here in the text. But relationships also can make people's lives complicated, and actually does, right? Like that's why we come back together. So in the spiritual level, the relationships don't get this complicated.
No, but in the spiritual world, you are separated from your loved ones that are at different levels that you are, right? So you think of André Luiz, his mother is in a more evolved world, his father is in the umbral, the lower zones, two sisters in the lower zones, another sister more evolved. So he doesn't have the daily relationships, with the loved ones and difficult ones that we have when we are incarnated are less common in the spiritual world. It may happen. André Luiz was there in the house of Laura and Lysias, and the family were together there. But one thing here, Danny, that when they talk a lot about material possessions, because if you look at us, again, talking as us as in general, for probably 80% of the population, happiness equals having money, wealth, possessions.
Yes.
80% is a complete guess. I have no idea if it's 70, 90 or whatever, but the majority of us equals wealth to happiness. And what the spirits are trying to tell us here is that that's not the reality. We have to be very careful and aware that happiness is the peace of mind that the acceptance of our situation and the effort that we make to improve ourselves brings to us. That's what happiness, relative happiness, is in this incarnation. So they have to focus on what the majority of people are interested in, which is wealth.
Very good.
Yes.
Can I just ask one more thing? Could it be that when this book was written, society was in a different stage comparing to now regarding that? Like at least the effort we see around us from books, from activists, from even people, politicians, leaders, or important people who affect others by the way they live and the things they say. It's too soon to say we are a little bit ahead of this stage here, that they're saying 1800s, because society was broken down in a very different way, and there was no up and down as much as we have today, or access to other material things or
Yeah, it's a proof of the
Teresa.
evolution of the human society, right? Because when this book was written, really we had two classes. We had the rich, the noble and the rich, and then we had the rest. And the noble, few of them work, most of them lived on their wealthy, and the poor ones struggle to survive, right? I read recently a book that how much was in 1830, 85% of the population lived below the level of poverty. And nowadays, in the whole world, we have less than 10% living below the poverty level. So it's a huge evolution, yes. But so yes, things are changing. But still today, again, I don't know the number, but the majority of us thinks that happiness relates specifically to wealth. And again, you mentioned some people that are different, and yes, I agree. We already have a much larger movement nowadays of people interested in the well-being of the society as a whole, and they are fighting for this much more than in the middle of the 1800s. But still it's not the majority. Otherwise, this will be a planet of regeneration already. But yes, we are much better than we were 200 years ago when this book was written. Okay.
Yeah, João.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm not quite sure if you answer or I didn't get your answer. So, for example, you always mention that, you know, if we all would be like wealthy here, we're probably not going to do anything because, you know, we don't have to worry about nothing. Yeah. So once you're in the spiritual realm, you don't have to worry about nothing. Same thing, because then, you know, you're not going to die of hunger. You don't need a house. You don't need to provide to no one. It's kind of the same situation, but in different planes. So that's why I was asking, what's the drive? What's going to drive us to do anything? Because, you know, what moves us is here is to have a car, to have a house, to provide for our family, and the intellectual part. Since we don't have to go to a college in the spiritual realm to be an engineer or doctor, whatever. So what's the drive? What's in store for us to, you know, move forward?
The same thing that brought you to this meeting today instead of you know, watching TV. You know, no one forces you to come here, and you are here because you want to learn. You want to learn more about our journey as eternal spirits. We will continue with that desire in the spiritual world, and we'll see spirits around us doing whatever they are doing, and we will want to do. We will find motivation for learning and for achieving more. You just have to follow André Luiz's journey in the spiritual world, right? How much he, in the beginning, he struggled a little bit, but once he understood the need to learn and to dedicate himself, he started working hard, and you see that in the book. So we'll find our motivation to evolve spiritually. That will, and those that don't want, it's perfectly possible that you get to the other side and think, oh, I don't need to make any effort here. I'm happy where I am, and you stay where you are. But you won't be in a place where you will be in a place where those around you think of the same as you, and you will eventually get frustrated and tired of being in the middle of a bunch of spirits that are doing nothing, or they're trying to harm others. Because that's where we will end up if we decide not to do anything productive in the spiritual world. We have free will, we can make our choices, but in the same way that we are all here trying to learn more about the spiritual world, about us here in the physical world, and we are all reunited here, when we go back to the spiritual world, we'll continue to have the same interest. You're not going to lose the interest because you went back to the spiritual world. On the contrary, I think you will find even more motivation to look for more answers that were not available to you here in the physical world.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah. Very good.
John, quick question.
Sure, Carol.
Yeah, in the spirit world, let's say here on earth, I enjoy gardening, or I enjoy music, or I love the arts. Would I be able to actually use my mind or my mental aspirations to actually create those types of environments just as a comfort? Or would I be drawn to people who have already done this and be part of a community or communities in spirit world? I don't know. It's a question that thank you.
Yeah, all the arts that we have here on earth are a bad copy of what we have in the spiritual world, according to what we hear from, even from André Luiz. There is a passage in one of the books that André Luiz sees a painting in a wall, and he said, "Oh, I know this painting. I saw it on earth." And the spirit tells him, "No, this is you. Here is the original. What you saw on earth is a copy of this, that the painter one day came here in a dream and saw this painting and fell in love with it, and went back to his life and replicated it, created a painting." So there is gardening, there is art, anything that it gives you satisfaction and a yearning to progress, you find in the spiritual world, because everything there is created with our minds. So it's actually even more than here. Here we have, as Renato was saying, we have the limitations of our physical life. We need to eat, we need to sleep. There, you can fully dedicate yourself to what really matters to you. Of course, again, if you spend all the time gardening in the spiritual world, you get tired of it, and eventually you want to do something else, and you look for different opportunities. But all of this is available to us in the spiritual world.
Thank you, John. I'll be also in spiritual school up there as well, or in there. Thanks.
Yeah. Ale, yes. Ale,
Next
you
up.
have a question? Alessandra raised her hand, but
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Oh, hi everyone. I just wanted to clarify something. Let's say we are involved in different groups here. Let's say an individual likes art, but likes also technology, and likes also other science. So does that mean that this person, this spirit is open to all these different types of things also in the spiritual realm? And here is kind of, because none of them are really linked together, but I don't know if you're following where I'm going with this, but my point is they're so far apart, but somehow this person is, likes to get involved with all these different things. It's just like a replication, like just a mirror of what this person used to do on the spiritual realm, or is just confused and trying to find a way?
Well, on our journey to become a perfect spirit, we have to learn from all aspects, right? We have to learn on the, we don't have to go through all the experience. You don't need to be a lawyer, an engineer, an artist, but you have to develop yourself in all areas. So if you have different interests on earth here at the moment, things that are completely apparently non-related to each other, it doesn't really matter. Everything that interests you, you have an opportunity to continue enjoying the spiritual world, in learning and being part of it. The same way that here you can at the same time do a class on cooking and a class on technological art, let's say. That one has nothing to do with the other, and you can do both classes and enjoy both learnings. It's the same thing in the spiritual world. You have different opportunities. It's just that we have to understand that when we are back in the spiritual world, our understanding of what we need and what we want to do, it may be slightly different from what we have here now, because we'll see things more clear. The veil of the physical body will no longer be present. So we'll be able to see things with a different perspective, and that may or may not change our objectives and our priorities in the spiritual world. Okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
Excellent. Okay, anyone else? We are going to go to an item that I'm sure we're going to spend a lot of time again. So, yes. So, but we have 8 minutes left. So if anyone has any question, we continue. Otherwise, we'll go a couple of questions on those, and then we come back next week to discuss more in depth. Because we're talking so much about the spiritual world. So when we talk about the loss of loved ones, it's an important subject also. Luis, yes, Luis.
Okay, seems the internet's a little better now. And I don't want you to go to the new chapter because it will be broken on our next lecture. Anyway, your expression that in the spiritual world, we create things with our thoughts. This could leave the false impression, in my opinion, that everything is like imaginary. I understand what you mean, but this might not be clear to everybody, on the sense that everything that exists in the universe is either the creator or a spirit that we don't really know what it is because we don't have word to talk about, spirit in the sense of soul, and universal fluid. And every substance here and in the spiritual world is universal fluid in some form. So although the processes are different in the spiritual world to manipulate universal fluid, it's still as present, as material, as existing. It's not imaginary. It has presence, as matter has to us here. So it's not something psychological. At least that's what I understand from what I read in the codification. Do you agree with that statement of mine, João?
100%. Yes, everything is material. Like Julio likes to say, everything is material. Not everything is physical. Physical is here on this planet, but everything is material. It comes from the universal fluid. So yes, when we are talking about a garden that we create in the spiritual world, it's a material garden that we are going to create without the forms of creation, and the result are different from what we see here on earth. And the processes of how it works in the spiritual world is still not 100% clear, and we don't have the fully understanding of how it works. So you think of a garden, and the garden that is there in front of you, and you are working on a garden that you create. We don't fully understand how does it work, but yes, 100%. It's material. It's not. Nothing is imagination. Our thoughts are matter, and actually, when we think in the spiritual world, we are creating. And there is a very interesting part in the domain of mediumship when André Luiz goes to a mediumship meeting, and the mentor and the director of the meeting, the incarnated director, asks for everyone to mentalize, to enter into a process of meditation, mentalization, and people start seeing different things. One sees a garden, the other sees a waterfall, and then André Luiz looks at his mentor and says, "What these people are seeing? I'm not seeing any of this." And the mentor explains, these are creations of their own mind. They are seeing what they want what brings them peace of mind, that helps them in the process of the mentalization. So they are creating their own realities. So in the spiritual world, we create our own realities that is matter, it's not imagination. You're absolutely correct on that, and it's important to stress that.
And if I understand well, João, we help create our own reality and matter around us, but actually other spirits are also creating matter and realities, and in these combinations, that's the space that we inhabit when we are there. The collective creations. Is that correct?
Yes, it's the collective creation of the minds of that place. So when we talk about lower zones, that is all dark and all ugly, is the disorganization of the minds of the spirits that are in the lower zone that creates those horrible places that they describe. It's not a physical, it's a physical place, a material place in the sense that they created it. But it's not something that they are thrown in, that was there. It's not the idea of hell that we have in the religious beliefs, right? That it's a place that you go and it exists. It's the creation of our mind materialized in a sense that reflects the mental aspects of all those in that place. Okay? Yes, was good. So you took us to the end of our class, and that was good. So we live loss of loved ones, which is a very challenging subject to discuss for next week.
Yes.
Okay. So what we have to say before I ask Carol to do the final prayer. So we don't have the lecture this Saturday because it's 4th of July. And so we don't have the United States Spiritist Federation lecture, but we have an interesting event, and those that are receiving our emails will see there. We have the family retreat, which we have every year in July in a park in Connecticut. This year, of course, because we cannot have be present in the park, we have a virtual family retreat. That is going to be through Zoom. It's going to be next weekend, not this one, next one. And you'll find information on the email. And if you need more information, please go to the Tri-State Spiritist Federation website, the tssfederation.org, and you'll find more information there. It's an activity for families, for those who have children and want to be part of a get together with other families and children. Okay. If you need more information, we can discuss it. So that's not this weekend, next weekend. Okay, the 11th and 12th, the 11th and 12th, yes. On the 12th, actually, we're going to have a very interesting lecture at SGNY. It's not this Sunday, the next Sunday. Décio Iandoli, who is a scientist and a very well-known spiritist in Brazil, is going to present a lecture. And I'll give more details next week. But if you can mark your calendar for the 12th at 11 a.m. So, and the family retreat starts at 1 p.m. So we won't be interfering one with the other. This Sunday, which is the first Sunday of the month, we'll be studying the book In the Greater World. Okay? Yes, we are in chapter 12, if I'm not mistaken. It's the chapter after sex, not the one that talks about sex, the next one. And okay, Carol, can you do our final prayer, please?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Thanks.
Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence and Good Spirit, we are grateful for the opportunity to be together this evening for our group to study the Spirit's book. We are truly grateful for the spiritual benefactors who are here with us, encouraging us and asking each one of us to more deeply pursue these studies. May we continue throughout the week as we study, continue with our prayers, our mindfulness, and the prayers for others during this time of the pandemic. We are grateful for what we have received, and may we continue to receive the blessings each week. We know that all things must pass. We know that in this world, this relative world, where happiness is fleeting, we know that if we can attain the peace of mind, we are able to have a better understanding of happiness, although not perfect happiness. This world is a world of trials and atonements, hoping that we will certainly move into a planet of regeneration. We certainly will. But it is up to us to do our best each day to provide this type of energy with a higher consciousness moving throughout our world. As we close this portion of the meeting, may we receive the love and light of Christ within us, and may we share it with others, our family members, our friends, our loved ones, and those who are our co-workers. We ask for the blessings during this time to receive greater healing for all of us, and may we be of assistance as we can to helping others to move into their own higher awareness. We close now and humbly ask for safety and protection for all those who are on their way, and may we have a beautiful and inspiring Independence weekend. We close now and ask to be beacons of light. Go forth now in peace. So be it.